real is rare today. You know what I mean? And I think that people are when something is truthful, you can't be angry, right? Person, I think Dr. Wesley said it best. We don't attack people; is principles.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And when you're going about the principle of a thing, right, then you're dealing with the essence of it, right? What makes it up, right? And when we look at the industry, right? I'm not even gonna call it hip hop. When we look at the industry, of course, has a business, right? They have a business of pushing music that only reflects, right, the negative aspects of our reality, but not
Mm.
the aspirational, right, vision that we have for our society and our culture and our communities. So therefore, you only get trauma being exported, right, as entertainment, but then that trauma becomes, reinforcing to recreate the same conditions when the trauma and the negativity becomes aspirational.
Right. And that's where we at, bro. People need to know that I love you too much to not be honest with you. That's what I said to artists. Because, brother, I have publicly and privately supported all three of those artists that I just so happen. And
Well, yeah, I mean, I personally know Meek and Jim Jones. Well, Jim Jones more, man. Meek have, private dialogue.
mm,
Um, so, and anytime anytime I see something that I don't like from personally from any of those guys, I might send out a comment or just reach out just because I have access to communicate. But I believe that in the nation we always say when something happens publicly we can check it publicly. If it happens privately, then we check it privately.
it,
So I think the conversation is necessary.
I hope everybody in the chat heard that. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, I would never, man of principles, morals, you heard me, and integrity, I would never take something that a brother is struggling with behind the scenes or just a personal vice or battle that he has and be like, I'm about to put this on publicly. No, we've gotten to a point in society where we are so comfortable pushing out publicly this negativity, this toxic behavior, and making it catchy, commodifying it, selling it. And it's like, we want to be able to put it out publicly, but it be addressed or checked publicly. Like, it don't work like that, my brother. It
Well,
don't work like
I think it's good to create the conversation because a person may have a perspective, right, that they can combat whatever your criticism is.
Mm.
And so it's one of those things to where you are allowed, right, the platform to publicly critique or criticize, and a person is allowed to defend and or stand up, right, for their way of doing things. And once you have it as a public discourse, it's now on record. You feel me? And if a person can't defend that, then a lot of times what ends up happening is they attack your character, right, or the way you went at them versus what it was about in the first place, right? And I believe that it's more so about how do we move forward. And when it comes to, because it's not even a conflict, right? This is more so a construct that we want to have, right? How do we have a constructive criticism and how we deal with conflict resolution as well. So I feel like hip hop is in its 50th year, yet we haven't had any critical conversations on any major platforms and none of these goddamn events, spaces, and nobody's asking real critical questions about the detriment that the industry has caused throughout the years.
everybody just want to celebrate hip hop. Hip hop 50, hip hop 50. Hip hop is in an identity crisis, y'all. Because hip hop does not know what it stands for versus what it doesn't stand for. What it chooses to celebrate versus what it needs to expunge itself. We don't even know. We just words hip hop and we're like, oh, we accept it all. We wide open to accepting anything in the name of hip hop. There's some elements and aspects of our culture that we need to reach with transformational love. Transformational love is different than affirmative love. Affirmative love means you just love something so much. All you want to do is big up it. All you want to do is say, hey, that's mine right there. And I can just compliment it and speak highly about it. Transformational love means I can affirm you when needed, but I can also, in love, criticize and pick apart what's not healthy for you moving forward. Because I love you, I don't want this to be part of you moving forward. I don't want this to permeate your existence, and this could be a cancerous part of you. I wanna extract that from you moving forward. We don't want that. We think that you're a hater. And look, 19, I'm gonna tell people this, because I tell people this all the time. Listen, man, I'm in, like, I don't go into detail, but I said it on the Sway interview. I'm good financially. This ain't never about no money. I'm straight in that department by the grace of God. You heard me? I'm people that's saying, "Oh, you just trying to get on." Man, I've been on for 15 years, bro. Since 2010. You heard me? Like, I've been on, like that. This ain't about that, and I've been on the same thing since day one, bro. The same platform, same principles. So for the people who are new here, who might be like, "Where this coming from?" Some of y'all are new to what is happening here, and some of y'all are new to what I do.
Well, I mean, I would like to know. Actually, it is a good question. I would say I was surprised. Not that the critique of hip hop happens, but I think it was the calling of the particular names.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? That were chosen specifically because, man, all the hip hop is
I'm
doing
about,
it. Almost.
I'm about to, right before you logged on, I just answered this question. All right, I'm in New York City. You heard me? I'm doing Sway in the morning. 2 days before that, I hear Meek Mill, Rick Ross, new single, Lyrical Easy. You heard me? I've been a fan of hip hop since I was 5 years old. So of course I keep up with what's going on in the culture. I could name you all them brothers' albums. Like, I'm in the culture. I'm in tune. So they got a new song that come out. I go and press play on it. I watch the video and everything. And I'm sitting there like, dog, it just hit me, bro. Because it was just like, Meek come on there, murder on my mind. I got nothing, right? And get you at the red light, get you shot on sight. Like, just all this. I'm hearing Ross. I'm hearing how Ross coming, what he talking about, still with the selling dope and with this and get you whacked. And I'm going to pay my young boys to do this to you. Meek, I got your baby mama in the Bahamas and she wilding and it's like, bro, it's the Rick Ross, you 47, my dude. You about to be 50 years old. Meek, you pushing 40. You heard me? Y'all are OGs at this point. Meek, you a young OG. Rick Ross, you really a OG. Like, as I'm hearing it, and then I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, Lil Snoop, that was a beloved dude in my state, in Louisiana. You heard me? Meek, you wear him around your neck to memorialize, like, what happened to him and how he lost his life too soon to gun violence. You sitting here, you part of the problem at this point. Meek, I gave out 1,300 pairs of Pumas, you heard me, in New Orleans and in Baton Rouge, because I was like, damn, Meek is on that prison reform tip. Like, yeah, like that's fire, bro. He got such a big platform. Meek, you came to Harvard not too long ago, where I'm at, where I'm doing a fellowship at. You know what I'm saying? You came here and sat on a panel and talked about all this prison reform stuff and all that. So it is so confusing when you are so bold about the glorification, not the narration or the education of what's going on in the streets, but the glorification in first person of what type of time you on. And it's like, that was on my mind because I had just heard the song. Jim Jones, whenever I go to somebody's place, it's like when you was in New Orleans and we was kicking in New Orleans, we riding around in my car. Like, you're going to respect the soil that you on and you're going to be conscious of the culture that you in. So I was in New York at the time. I'm on Sway in the morning. I think about the elder statesmen in New York. And Jim Jones is a person who I've always felt has great potential to be a leader, but who I just see this infatuation with staying relevant to the young boys and the street culture in a way that makes Jim Jones not reach his peak, because it's still this fixation on, I get my young boys to come whack you, and like I'm still living like this and still living like that. And it's like, bro, some people just ignorant, you hear me? Some people just straight ignorant, 19, and they don't know no better. And those people, I would never call them out, because you don't know any better. I'm an educator. I taught middle school. I'm in high schools all the time. Now I'm on a college level. Bro, if somebody truly don't know no better and they're not there cognitively, cool, you don't call that out.
But when it's willful ignorance and it's people that you know better, that's where it's like, come on, man. You surrounded by a bunch of yes men that's on your payroll, so they're not gonna probably tell you about yourself. So that's why I was on my mind to say that. But you're right. It's plenty more than just them. You're right.
Right.
And I'm gonna say this. This is my last point. I got another interview that I did that same day that's about to drop with all hip hop. And it's the same thing. It's like doing that Sway interview just unlocked something in my brain to where I was like, yo, it's other stuff in the culture that ain't right. The way these women parading around, Sexy Red, Ice Spice, the way they rocking at this point, you know what I'm saying? Glorified prostitution. That ain't gangster. That ain't cool. I look at somebody who I respect to the fullest as far as his intelligence. And I was like signed to his management company before, T.I. I look at it like, man, I be seeing all this like trap music museum, and this the 20th year of trap music, and we got the Mount Rushmore of trap music. We are just looking as human beings for an excuse to be able to celebrate what we have put our time and energy towards in our lives, instead of sometimes being like, dang, the realest thing I could do, the most gangster thing I could do would probably be to denounce some of my past ways and some of my past actions and output and say, it's time to turn over a new leaf. But I just see this fixation on like, well, we got to turn this into a museum, or we got to, you know, the 20 years of this, and I'm the inventor of this. And it's just like, nah, man, so it ain't just them three. You hear me?
Yeah, I think that I'm in agreement with the facts that you stated. It's about the guidance towards, because I think the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he usually had these conversations with these rappers, right? I think he's probably been the best for a lot of people who don't know the visible hand for a lot of the change that we do see in hip hop and in within the culture, especially when it comes to conflict resolution, when it comes to somebody being able to have a voice in the ear. And sometimes he'd talk to them about, now you can't just go completely and change all your lyrics, even though lyric reform is good, because then you create a disconnection from your audience that work with you. And I use Jeezy as an example of that because I know Jeezy went through a transitional period with his music, right? It went from trap music to more aspirational music. And he lost a large segment of that audience. And the reason that I believe so, in my theory, is the fact that a lot of times, you know, when you look at Trap or Die, you look at some of those early movements that he was curating, there was a whole movement of brand around that. There was storytelling. There was the DVDs, the documentaries that came out with. It was a culture and a lifestyle surrounding that. So people could connect to the music because it was this curation beyond the music, right? And a lot of times when people start to do their transition, they don't know how to curate in new spaces. They don't know how to be like, yo, I want to talk about my family. I want to talk about the issues I'm having in the industry. I want to talk about that, but they don't know how to make money off that, right? And what happens, and the problem is that when they get caught up in selling death or selling drugs or selling, right, the negative atmosphere of realities that exist, then they have to maintain a lifestyle based on, you know, them making money from that. Right? And so now when they stop doing it, the bills start to rush in. They can't take care of their family and they want to still pay these particular bills. So the sacrifice be too great for them because the pivot of learning how to sell something that's constructive versus something that's destructive, they don't know how to do. Right? So they get caught up in this cycle of, well, shit, I got to make some more money. I'm going to push out this shit, but I'm going to use my money possibly for something that's more constructive. So then it becomes these loops that kind of feed into each other. And the game is, you know, I've learned how to create a platform like yourself of doing something constructive, right? Because we learn the science, whether you're selling something negative or selling something positive, the same science can be utilized, right? And it's like my platform, if a lot of them come and sit down with me and you talk to me, then I can, not only I can give you the game, I can help you curate into a new audience to where they want to hear music that's reflective of this transition and these states that you're now going through. Because you now can say, well, I'm not that same snotty-nosed nigga that was in the street, right? I done bossed up and changed in development of my mind. So now people are like, okay, I'm rocking with you because of that. Now make music that's reflective of that versus when the music feels like there's a gap, right? To where it's like, bro was just talking about, yeah, we just seen a nigga on some wild shit. Now he talking something positive. That's a disconnect. Versus, all right, if I'm so and so, I'm gonna just start talking about how, man, I'm going through these changes in life, right? And like you said, you may go through this point where I feel like I was going through these changes in life to where I don't want to do the trap shit no more, right? You can talk about that in the interview, and then when you talk about that in the interview, that kind of becomes news. Once that becomes news, people want to hear that reflected in the music, right? So now you have a way to continue this brand machine going to where you can pay your bills. So I'm at this solution point where now it's like, you know, you can go to the homies in the street and tell them what not to do all day long, but if you don't give them the science or the strategies or the skill sets to do something in replacement, they not gonna listen. It's not that what you're not saying is correct. It's just you lose them because they like, well, are you also go, you know what I mean, take care of me the way the devil take care of me. You know what I'm saying? So we teach people how to tap into that God mind and be like, listen, you have the ability to manifest based on your lower frequency. Let me teach you the ability to manifest based on your higher.
Watch this. Jay-Z is their mentor, bro. So they have, they got the ultimate big homie who has paid the trend. You know what I mean? Like, this is y'all mentor. So my thing is like, at a certain point, we gotta call it a spade. And it's like, you could surround somebody with all of the resources and all of the solutions to a new path and how to provide for themselves that you want. Brothers gotta ultimately make a decision to not be addicted to that attention.
Oh no,
you know what I mean?
I agree. But look at the science that Jay-Z applied. And the reason part of that why I get that, because if you study Jay-Z and how Jay-Z did it, he learned how to do it successfully. You don't hear Jay-Z opinion on things until you hear it in the music for the most part. Right? And what a lot of them do wrong and why when they try to do something positive, it doesn't work. Right? Because they're not applying the science of what works. You hear about infidelity in Jay-Z marriage. Next time you hear about him talk about it, it's in his music. You know what I'm saying? When you want to know Jay-Z's state of the culture and what he thinks about things, you go have to get it in the music. It's reflective, and there's a connection between that. What I'm saying is, and it's beyond Meek or Jim Jones or Rick Ross, right? I'm speaking on the entirety of the movement because the industry is going to show you, you know, Lyra Koenig went on there and talked about how he didn't want to push music that was aspirational. He only wanted to push music that was reflective of the negative shit that was happening in the streets, right? So, you know, most of the rappers in the game are pawns. They don't have no power. They don't have no control, right? So when you start talking about really the industry, you're talking about executives, right? When you're talking about music, you're talking about the rappers, which is two completely different things, right? And so it's like somebody like Sexy Red, she has a machine behind her, which is the industry, which is money, right? I'm sure if she wanted to rap about something, they not gonna be behind her if she start trying to switch that shit up. They're gonna be like, nope, that's not what we hired you for. We hired you because you popular amongst the youngsters. You know what I'm saying? They want to hear this ratchet shit, so we're gonna put money behind it. We're not gonna push no Rhapsody so that her shit becomes out there and it's a whole machine behind it. So a lot of times what we talking about is the machines of the industry, right? Which have a lot more power. And then now it's about teaching the rappers and those who come up like yourself, like my brothers, like the La Russells of the world, the Simbas of the world, how to create that same science behind their machinery so that that's what get glorified more rather than the negative shit, which is low-hanging fruit that can be easily popularized, right? So I'm not taking away from nothing that you're saying. I'm just saying this is the science that I have to do it, because I sometimes sit with a rapper or two, once you realize is they not getting no game. They might be surrounded by people who got it, but they ain't giving it. Why? Because when you give a person some game and some knowledge, you empower them to where a person don't need you, right? So a lot of times they ain't got nobody coming around and saying, bro, I don't like that. You should do it this way, and this is how you do it. They ain't got nobody like that. I promise you ain't nobody in those circles and environments and influence is challenging the narratives that's being pushed. Everybody is happy, curating, and getting paid off of it. So when they hear individuals such as myself and yourself, is the time that they get outside influence, right? That makes them think and become reflective of their actions. And then it'd be like, all right, well, this is how you do it, because you can't make the excuse. Same thing when niggas be on their platforms gossiping all day about what's happening in the world, but we got a platform that's based on information. You feel me? And it still gets millions of views, right? So now they like, well, damn, I don't really have an excuse because Keys do it. Then they go find an excuse, but it's not the reality because we showcase an archetype of possibility. So for me, it's all about giving the game and at the same time criticizing the reality so that we can construct a new one.
Yeah. Well, that's where we at, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we at. This is a high level conversation. You heard me?
Yes, sir. 100%. 100%.
That's all.
So I salute you, number one. I think it's necessary. I think we need more conversations like this. And I think hip hop needs to have more of these conversations. We look at what's happening in Palestine and Israel. You know, rappers don't won't speak on that because they don't want to educate themselves to know any better. You feel me? So they speak from the perspective of their alliances rather than their education and their knowledge. So therefore, you don't get true perspective. You get puppetry. They get pushed out, right? And so that's a whole nother conversation. Hip hop used to be, you know, political, right? It used to know the social science. It used to know the streets and the culture. It used to give codes to live by. It don't do none of that right now. And, you know, rappers don't stand up for themselves and people don't push each other. When you see some sucker shit, ain't no more calling out going on in the game. And that's when the game has standards. So you would call things out because it wasn't upholding a standard. But because the game has no standards, and anybody that has the skill of rapping can say they're a part of the culture of hip hop because they're pushed by the industry, which is the business, right? It gets confused and convoluted as if these are all the same thing, and they not.
Anybody on this live right now, you could become a rapper tonight. There's no better entry. Anybody on this live could become a rapper, but you can't become a doctor tonight. You hear me? You can't become a lawyer tonight. You can't become an accountant tonight, licensed accountant. There's no license, there's no union, there's no standards, like 19 said, when it comes to hip hop. And these are the ramifications of not is that now we just sitting here like, wait, it's actually wrong to call out anything in culture because who said that that's bad? Who are you, D1? Who are you to say that? And that's why I'm like, well, the word of God never changes. You heard me? Proverbs 18:21. There's death and life in the power of the tongue. You know, I done said with the minister before, Minister Farrakhan, and you know the same mission that I'm on, and he understands his nuanced, loving, but direct way of being able to address brothers and sisters in the culture. And it's something to where when you stand on principle,